Welcome into another edition of Buffalo Game Day Recap. I'm AJ Feldman. Joining me shortly from Foxborough is Sports Director Thad Brown. For the first time in almost 3 months, the Bills showed up, played up to their expectations, beat a quality football team, and changed the outlook of their season and their playoff picture with a 33-21 victory over the Patriots. With the win, the Bills are now at the top spot of the AFC East and control their playoff destiny to win the division for the second straight year. We now bring in Sports Director Thad Brown. And Thad, this is the Bills team that we haven't seen for a while. This is the team that showed up. This is the team that needed to play like they did today, and they certainly did, Thad.
Yeah, AJ, when you mean a while, I think you mean since the Kansas City game. That's the last time we saw this Bills team. This was an amazing performance. The list of superlatives is too long for us to fit onto this show. Keep in mind, this show really can go as long as we want it to, and still, there's too many to talk about. There were so many players that stepped up and exceeded expectations. The offensive line is where I would start. In a week where you had multiple changes, Dion Dawkins is out, then he's back in, Cody Ford is out. They even had to have a change during the game when Ike Butker got hurt. The O-line was very, very good. It wasn't perfect, but when you have Josh Allen, you don't have to be perfect. They were, however, excellent in some very big spots. The first quarter, fourth down touchdown to Isaiah McKenzie was a play where Allen had all kinds of time to throw. Without the O-line playing well, that doesn't happen. So kudos to the O-line for figuring it out this week. McKenzie's another big one, obviously. 11 catches, 125 yards. The little guy was just throwing his body at balls everywhere and making not only impressive catches and catches that piled up number-wise, but big catches in the game. The fourth down one I already talked about. The third down conversion in the fourth quarter that began the Bills' last touchdown drive. McKenzie, this is a guy that was demoted. He was benched, inactive for Thanksgiving. I remember watching him on the field before the Saints game, looking kind of down, wondering, about the future of his career, whether he'd still be in the league. And here he is playing a big role in the Bills saving their season. And that's what this win was. It was a, not maybe season saver, but certainly a season definer, because the Bills are now right back on top. All the bad things that have happened this year, all the losses to Jacksonville, the close losses, the teams that they couldn't finish off, the good teams they couldn't beat, that's all gone now, because the Bills are back in first place in the AFC East after this win over New England. It was an impressive game for sure. And, of course, the guy at the forefront, as always, Josh Allen, who was magic, a superstar, MVP, whatever word you want to use, the answer is yes. That's how he was in this game. 300-plus yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 60 yards rushing, and this against a defense that's second or third in the league. The Bills didn't even punt once in this game. In fact, Matt Hawk, the punter, joked with Josh Allen and made sure that they took a picture together because Hawk said he'd never been in a game where he didn't have to punt before. This wasn't a bottom feeder. This was the Patriots. Allen was the leader of a Bills win that will change, if not, like I said, define this season.
We all trust the ball in his hands anytime the game's on the line. We're down, we're up, whatever it is. In 1-7, we trust. And so love that guy and, very, very happy with his success.
Josh makes $250 million, like Josh is worth every penny of what he is. And I say that like jokingly, but like Josh is just one of those guys that he cares about his teammates, and he's a over competitor, and you see it.
I'm super proud. Again, adversity, just guys being pulled out. Ryan Bates stepping up. He played fantastic. Ike goes down. Dion comes back in after being, at home with COVID and not really knowing much of the game plan and not actually practicing the game plan. That's really tough to do. I'm so happy for our guys, how they responded.
Going back to the phase 1 of our OTA starting in April, when we were virtual and figuring out the whole mess of what OTAs were going to be. This is the position that we talked about from then. And so we're, 9 months later, whatever it is, and that's come full tuition for us.
And Sean McDermott made the point after the game that it is hard in the NFL to follow up a season like the Bills had last year with another one of a similar caliber. And he said, look, I'm proud of the way my guys have persevered, because the Bills season now, it won't be exactly what they want. They're not winning the 1 seed. They're not going to win 13, 14 games, but they are going to very likely win the division. They are very likely going to at least start the playoffs at home. And that's a whole lot closer to a Super Bowl run than what they looked like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. AJ, let's go back to the studio for your take from this win over the Patriots.
Yeah, Thad, you said at the beginning, and I think we're going to spend just about every segment of this show talking about the offensive line in some respect. They played great, no sacks allowed, and this was a unit that was rightfully receiving a lot of criticism all season long. You know, you mentioned how well Josh Allen played. Well, what's the difference between Allen today and Allen a couple weeks ago, you know, a couple months ago? It was the offensive line. He had time to throw the ball, and he wasn't under that constant pressure. You know, in some of these games we've had this season, he's just been under constant duress all season long, and you can just see it get to him mentally because, you know, the second you've got the ball in your hands, you're running for your life. I don't know what they did. They seem to have found something recently. Even in that first quarter when Spencer Brown had to play left tackle, he was much better. He wasn't really a liability at all. They literally flipped the offensive line around in the second quarter. They rolled with the punches. They had their best game of the season. If that offensive line can play even 80% of what they did today, that makes this offense an entirely different level. And I think the reason why I thought maybe the COVID situation with wide receivers, Gabriel Davis, Cole Beasley being out, was going to be more of an impact was that offensive line, because you need guys to win one-on-one battles when you only have 2 or 3 seconds to throw the ball. Well, they had more time than that, and Isaiah McKenzie just stepped up big, as you mentioned it. And you mentioned the key moments that he played a big part, you know, big third down catches, big touchdown catches. The parts that's, you know, kind of hindered McKenzie this season has been the miscues, the fumbles, the muffs, just the mental mistakes. He didn't have any of those all game long, and I liked his attitude after the game. You know, he had the game of his career, the game of his life. It seemed kind of, you know, all right, this is what I got to do. You mentioned before in that Saints game how he was down. He does kind of ride a little bit of a roller coaster. You know, he tweeted earlier this season that he didn't think he was going to play for the rest of the season. He commented on the fact that Sean McDermott didn't trust him as a return man. He commented on that. He kind of rides a little bit of a roller coaster. It's good to see he's not getting too high up. That's going to be key for this season and next season if they decide to move past Cole Beasley's contract. And the defense, you know, they had a good game. They did get bailed out a little bit by the offense in that second half. They gave up 2 touchdowns on their only 2 real drives of the game. This game was a lot closer than it needed to be with how well they were just playing. They should have won. They could have won by this game by like 40. As you mentioned, they didn't punt, some red zone issues. This is just me not heaping the Bills with praise. They played a great game, but, you know, red zone issues, 4th down issues, defense can't get off the field on 4th down. They could come back to haunt them, but not too much to criticize with this game. Let's head back out to Orchard Park, where the Bills are about to, as we mentioned before, the guys stepping up for the Bills. Isaiah McKenzie, big time there. He just had the game of his life. Let's head out to more from Thad Brown.
Yeah, AJ, you're not wrong. Look, I mean, the Bills' defense, certainly I think if you want to analyze their performance, 21 points allowed. They gave, I think, $150 on the ground. I know Damien Harris was over 100 yards. Not a super game. They did force the one big turnover, which helped turn the game and put the Bills in front by 2 scores. So give the Bills defense credit there. But this was in large part an offense-dominated game, which, look, this is what we thought the Bills would be. This is what we thought they were building, and also what we think works championship-wise in the NFL. So, winning 33-21, yeah, the defense didn't look great, but you can get away with that. Now, the reason the Bills got away with that, or maybe one of the reasons why it was so impressive, is because, like we've talked about a little bit, Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis did not play in this game. They were both on the COVID list. Isaiah McKenzie, who's been talking certainly with Beasley a lot over the course of the last couple of years as McKenzie tries to grow a little more as a slot receiver in the NFL. He said this week that Davis and Beasley both did as much as they could on the phone to be a part of the game, be a part of the game plan, and help the Bills out as they got ready for the Patriots. But this game was about McKenzie, not about Beasley, not about Davis. It was about McKenzie stepping up and finding his way to make some big plays in a very big spot.
It means a lot to him, but I think it means a lot to everybody on this team, just seeing a guy like that who has his ups and downs throughout the year, loses the returning position, is sat for a couple games and comes out and he was unbelievable today.
That was my first time sitting down in a while, and I just had to take heave and just, think to myself, like, what can I do better? I just show up to practice every day, get my teammates better, do whatever I got to do to make myself better than my teammates.
He's a stormtrooper, man, and he shows his personality on and off the field, and I am extremely thankful to have a guy and like that as a teammate, as the whole locker room is.
Everybody told me just keep my head up, stay confident. When you get your opportunity, just take advantage of it. It was my turn, and I felt like I just had to step up for my team.
Just an absolute, just phenomenal day for him, and I'm so happy for him. I can't express that enough.
McKenzie said that he used his benching, his demotion as a learning experience. So one of the reporters gave him the question, what did you learn from it? McKenzie joked, I learned not to make mistakes. But really what he said was, quote, what he said was, I learned from it, but I don't want to go back to it. We are right now going to go back to A.J. Feldman in the studio for the numbers from this Bills win.
Yeah, some great numbers for the Bills today. Josh Allen, 30 for 47, 314 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, also tallied on 64 rushing yards. Really just did it all, as you said, MVP level. Isaiah McKenzie, the man of the hour, 11 catches, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, showed up big when his number was called. And Stephon Diggs, we went this far without even talking about him. He had a great game. 7 catches, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. Had some tough matchups against him, received some double teams, showed up big in Foxborough once again like he did last season. Over on the other sideline, taking a look at the Patriots stats, not as promising. Mac Jones struggled today, 14 for 32, under 50%, only had 145 yards and had 2 interceptions, 1 in the first half, which was a really crucial spot in the game where they got that interception, the second one in garbage time. Damien Harris, another big day for him on the ground, 18 carries, 103 yards. Not the biggest game, yards per attempt-wise, but did have 3 touchdowns, got some key spots for them, kept the Patriots in the game when the passing game falters. And the top receiving man, Jacoby Myers, 6 catches for 59 yards. Pretty quiet day as the Patriots couldn't really get it going offensively through the air. Now, as stated previously, the offensive line probably played their game of the year, and it was not without some unexpected heroes. John Feliciano and Cody Ford both out on the COVID list. Ike Bucker suffered a ruptured Achilles, missed most of the game. That put in Dion Dawkins, who just got off the COVID list on Saturday and didn't really practice all week and had to cram to learn the game plan. For a group that has received that justified criticism this year, they certainly stepped up when it mattered most.
Resilient group. Never good to see a guy go down, and on the field or off the field, and losing guys due to COVID and losing some coaches due to COVID. I thought was a very resilient approach by the guys, coaches included.
All those guys are capable, of playing on the line, no matter who it is, and they showed that today. And it just shows how tight we are and how tight they are.
This is a hard league, and when we could do things right, we cherish those moments, and we look at it, we give ourselves a pat on the back, and then we keep stepping. And anytime that we could perform at a high level and win, it's just smiles.
Allen said he was super proud of his O-line and said their performance was motivated by the Christmas gifts that he gave him. Some nice watches. I'll say it's quite a fitting gift. Certainly had a lot of time in the pocket today. Let's go back out to Thad with more on the offensive line, and Dawkins stepping up at the last minute after his second battle with COVID this season.
Wouldn't be a Buffalo game day recap without A.J. Feldman getting a little zinger, and that was another good one by A.J. But let's talk about Dion Dawkins. Remember, this is his second bout with COVID this year. The first one over the summer sent him to the hospital for 4 days. And Dawkins said that this experience wasn't nearly as bad. No hospital stay this time. He talked after the game about what it was like this week to not be a part of the team, not be a part of the game plan, and try and manage a tough spot with the Bills having a monster game at the end of the week.
I'm just thankful that I had my teammates like Mitch to call and check on me and make sure that I was all right. And those little text messages and those little calls go a long way. And when I was sitting in the basement and cooped up for 10 days, a text from the guys and a call, it just brightened up the rest of that night into that next morning. And my guys honestly just kept me there. They kept me there. They kept me in the loop.
He just hit the ground running. And like I said before, that just kind of speaks to the professional he is. We're all trying to grow and be better men and better football players. And I think that's just a testament to him staying mentally engaged in a scary time, right? Like, you get COVID twice, and the first time it really kind of knocked him down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then you still have a game plan and you still have to worry about your family, all that stuff, and come out here. And to be honest, as a guy like myself trying to put people in positions today, he didn't miss a beat.
Now, as for how Dion feels, he said, look, I feel pretty good. And I think he summed up kind of the experience in a big picture sort of way, saying, look, I'm here and I'm happy. And that really is the most important thing about this. Not that Dion Dawkins, the football player, had a good game, but that Dion Dawkins, the man, is in good shape health-wise. As for the Bills, their season is suddenly in very good shape. Look, I was incredibly impressed with this game. In my opinion, this win was the best of the Sean McDermott era. Not the playoff wins last year, not any of the wins last year that got him a division crown or got him into the playoffs the year before. This, to me, was the most complete performance. Not just, and complete might not be the right word because, as AJ rightly pointed out, the defense wasn't superb in this game, but you consider what the Bills had to deal with this week. The constant lineup changes due to COVID. Not just in one guy in different spots. It was 3 offensive linemen, 2 receivers, same side of the ball, 2 position groups. They did it going on the road into the place where it's been a house of horrors for the Bills for 2 decades against a Hall of Fame coach that has tormented them as recently as 3 weeks ago with the 3-pass game. You put all that together and then you look at the way this Bills team controlled this game, finished it. You know, I thought for a lot of this game, the Bills were going to get their first 1-score win of the year. No. When the Bills are playing well, they don't let teams hang around. They don't mess around. They bury teams. They did it in Kansas City earlier this year. They did it today against the Patriots in Foxborough. I was, like I said, incredibly impressed with what I think is the best Bills win of the year. Now, does it springboard them to something more? We will see. They've got 2 really winnable games, and then we start talking playoffs. But because of this, the Bills get to start their playoff run very likely at home. And even though they're not going to get the 1 seed, almost certainly, that was their goal when the season began, this win still makes this regular season, in my opinion, a pretty decent success. That's all I got here live in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. Let's go back to the studio and AJ Feldman.
Thank you, Thad. Like you mentioned, 2 games to go for the Bills, Falcons and the Jets, both at home. They get to close out their regular season in Orchard Park. Falcons needed a last kind of minute win to beat the hapless Lions at home, so good for them. And no matter what happens next week, even if the Bills were to win, even if the Patriots were to lose, they still would not clinch that division, so they will have to play their guys in that Week 18, just looking ahead at that. So a lot on the line for the Bills. You know, they have had some slip-ups this year. Jaguars, Steelers, first game of the season, so we're not going to pencil them in just yet. Well, we might pencil them in. We're not going to pen them in just quite yet. But we will be there every step of the way here on Buffalo Game Day Recap. We will be here on RochesterFirst.com. Have your coverage all week long on News 8 as well as we march towards the playoffs for the Buffalo Bills. I'm AJ Feldman for Thad Brown in Foxborough. Thank you for watching Buffalo Game Day Recap. Have a great rest of your night and enjoy your football weekend.
Follow News 8 wherever you are on RochesterFirst.com, Facebook, Twitter, and on our app for news and weather.